This is an introduction to the web-based editor, JSFiddle, that's available at JSFiddle.net. If you look, you've got this window divided into 4 sections. These 4 sections are places you can enter in CSS code, HTML, JavaScript. If you don't need all 3 with what you're working on, you could just leave the area blank for that you're not using. We do have an area in the bottom right that is the result or the output area, depending on what code you're using here. In the top right, we do have this area for settings. Before we get into that, I want to make sure that you go ahead and sign in. If you don't have an account, you do want to click that anyway and create an account. I know it's going to look a little bit different. I've already signed in here, but go ahead and take care of that in the top right corner. It is free. Now they do have pro features that you can pay for, but to create an account is free. So once you sign in, if you go to settings, you're going to see you have more choices there than if you would not have signed in, but you can change the layout and you've got several choices. Also some nice switches here for adding line numbers. That's on. You want to have that on by default. Whether or not you want it to wrap lines of code, whether you want to indent with tabs, you can even change your indent size. Code hinting is in beta. I'm trying it out and so far I've been happy with it. You also have some behaviors down here, like I don't want to auto run code. That's not going to validate, so I've got that turned on. It is nice when it's auto closing brackets and HTML tags, so I do have that turned on as well. And the live code validation definitely is working well for me. So these are choices that you can turn on in the settings. Outside of settings, you can grab these windows and resize them as well for depending on what you're working on, what you need priority. So you can take care of that. So let's go ahead and put in something very basic. Let's start off with hello world, because we should. Once you type in something into the HTML, we can click run right away and you'll see that output there in the results. You have the ability to give each of these things that we're creating are called fiddles. So you have JavaScript, HTML, and CSS all together to create one fiddle. So you can give that fiddle a name like hello. You can give it a description. Intro to JSFiddle, and you have the ability to save. I do want to point out that at the top of the screen where you see the link, you actually have a specific link here that you can share with other people. So if you would like to share your fiddle with someone and you just share this link, that will actually allow them to get to the fiddle. Once they're in the fiddle and looking at it, they have the ability to fork. Actually, you could do that as well, depending on what your needs are. But the forking option is it's like a fork in the road with 2 different destinations. You can have code that starts off exactly the same, but this just separates it into a completely separate file. If we look at what I've got here as the link, and then I click on the fork option, what I see up here now is a completely different hyperlink. So I am now working on a different JSFiddle file. So I could go in and say like hello world as the file name. I could go in and add some extra exclamation marks. I can save this, I can run this and see the changes. But if I want to go back, I can actually click on the button in the top right corner and look at my fiddles, and I will actually see I've got 2 different fiddles here. So I've got the 2 different ones, and I have one that says here number 1 is the latest version. So clicking on that, it takes me to the latest version of what I was working on. But let's say I make some new changes. And when I go in and I save those changes, if I look up here in the link, I now have a 2 right here at the end. And so this is actually keeping track that I have a second version of this. So I have a second version going on, and I could change that back to a 1. And then I go back to my first version. I could change that back to the 2 and go back to my second version. So you have the ability to look at the different versions that you've been working on so far. You can put in different metadata for that as well as you go through. I do want to also point out the collaborate feature. So when you're working on a fiddle, you can click collaborate. Opens up this window. Now it does walk you through with a nice little tutorial where you can choose your name and your file and your color. But it will give you a link. And if you copy and paste this link into an email and send it to someone else, they can actually open up the link in JSFiddle and be in the same document as you. Once they're in the same document, you will have the ability to chat. So you can open up a chat and actually chat back and forth while you're looking at the same document. If they have a microphone enabled, you can actually talk and do an audio chat as well. So this is a great way to collaborate if you're working with someone else on a project, or it's a great way to get help from someone if you're struggling with something and you want someone else to be able to look at your code and chat with you in real time as they're working with you. So, one more feature, the nice little tidy button that it appears. I do want to point out, please hit that tidy button if you're not frequently keeping your lines indented as you're working through your code. It will make things look nice and neat for you. To submit this to someone like an instructor or to a friend, remember, just copy and paste this link, send it to them, and that's going to give them access. Well, there you go. You made it to the end of this video, so well done. But don't stop learning.